Well, hello, everyone. I see we have plenty of people still logging in, setting up their technology. I'm going to give us until 1:02 Eastern Time before we fully kick off our event. If you have not already, go ahead and tell me where you're phoning in from on the chat. I'd love to see where we are today. I'm seeing a lot of hellos from California. Oh, I see a lot of Pennsylvania, some Washington. I've seen several Houston, Texas. I lived there for a while, so very fond of that. Let's see, who else do we have here? Oh, fun. I used to teach at Gaston College Preparatory, and I see we've got some GCP Cubs in the chat. Hi, GCP. Virginia Beach, exciting. New York City, all right. Northampton, Massachusetts. Michigan. Y'all are coming from all over. I see some LA. Oh, hi, Ms. Barnes' class from Kip Gaston Primary. Let's see, who else do I see? Ooh, Bear, Delaware. Mrs. Phillips' class in Birmingham, Alabama. Columbus, Ohio, Georgia. Mrs. Gall's class in Lancaster. Oh, we've got someone from Maryland, Bubbling Springs Academy. Awesome. We're going to kick off in just about 30 seconds. I see Miss Bennett's class from Charlotte is here. Ms. Toro's 4th grade class from Miami. The Hawkeyes from North Carolina. Awesome. Well, we are at 1:02, and I am so excited to introduce you to our event today. Welcome to Build the Change. We all know that children have the best ideas and an amazing amount of creativity. That's why we think it's important to share topics like the one we'll be looking at today and get your ideas on how to make things better. We know your ideas change the world. They can influence important decisions. They can inspire people in positions of power to change. They can change our planet and our lives for the better. Today, we are kicking off our journey on how nature is being impacted today by humans and how we can help protect living things from extinction. Before we go into that, since you're going to be hearing me a little bit today, I figured I would introduce myself. My name is Cassie Schultz. I work for First Book. We are all about getting books into classrooms, closing those educational gaps, and helping you students and you educators be the best you can be to build the change. I come from a family of teachers. I love dressing up as different characters and taking pictures and working birthday parties. And I have 2 tortie cats named Tiana and Merida. They're currently napping right now, but who knows? Sometimes they like to pop in. Our topic today is about human impact. We are going to start exploring this really cool topic. It is really important in helping people and the planet into the future. It's human impact saving today's dinosaurs. We will be thinking about the different living things that humans share the planet with and how humans can have a positive and negative impact. We are going to just set a couple of expectations so you know what we're going to be doing today. Today, as a group, we will ask experts about human impact, birds, museums, and more. 2, we will meet an adorable creature named Monty. And 3, we will use our new knowledge to begin to build solutions for birds. So there are 3 things. Ask experts, meet a creature, use our knowledge. So we are going to quickly, because I know maybe some of you sat down a little early, Maybe some of you just sat down. I know that we can, be a little wiggly. So we are going to go ahead and we are going to just take 10 seconds. Not too long, not too short, before I introduce you to my friend David from Lego. So let's just go ahead, touch your nose, touch your head, wiggle, 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 wiggle with the fingers, head again, wiggle, 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 side to side, stop, hands in your laps, eyes on the screen, ready to focus. David, I think our friends are ready for you.
Oh dear, are they? Hello! Good to see you. Thank you, Cassie. Well, it's wonderful doing this session with Cassie. She's awesome, isn't she? And we're going to hear more from Cassie, of course, later. And she's still around, for sure. Now, my name's David. Good to meet you. I am so excited about today, just like Cassie. I think our excitement levels are roughly the same. I'm so excited for a number of reasons. One, I get to talk to all of you about something that I am so passionate about in my personal life and at work. First of all, I love play. I love learning through play. I work at the Lego group, so I get to play every single day, which is so cool. The other thing I'm really passionate about is connecting young people to nature and to the environment. And we get to do that a lot through our work at the Lego group. And you won't believe this, but one of my passions since I was 11 years old is, in fact, birds. I love birds. So when we created this resource, we were so excited. I was so excited. Now, if you look at the slide there, you've got my passions kind of represented. You've got me with some Lego bricks, building habitat there with an octopus flying in the air. That's not something you see every day. You've got me with a beautiful bird that's in Japan. It's a very tame bird. You got me sitting smiling. That's not so interesting. But the last one is me up a tree with my children. My children are teenagers, they're 16 and 14, so they're a bit older now, and they are also really passionate about wildlife and nature. We're going to be exploring that today. Now, one of the things that I wanted to introduce to you about me was actually something I do. So I do a lot of research with birds. I do a lot of research. I go out on weekends with other researchers and scientists, and we catch birds in a very safe way. We're all trained, and we ring them, we measure them, we check what they're eating, we measure their wings, and we see how old they are. And we gather all this data, and we put it on a big data bank, and scientists and everyone else can access that data and find out how birds are doing, if their numbers are going down, if they're traveling from Africa to Europe, etc., that kind of stuff. So I put together a little video. It's a very short one, just to show you a little bit of what I do. Here we go.
Hi folks, I am out in the early morning putting up a net. You'll see it in a second. I've got a head torch on and hopefully catch some birds. Bye! It's all our kit. Putting up a net in this lane now, and this is beautiful, I guess it's a sunrise, nearly, in Essex, England. Here we have a great tit, so we're just going to put a little ring on the bird's leg, like so, make sure it's tight, and it's got numbers on it, so if it's caught again, we can identify the bird, see how it's doing. Releasing now. Here we go. Whee! So this lovely bird is a blue tit, and it's actually the same family as chickadees. So you may know chickadees, and they love biting fingers. Oh, thank you. Here we are. This is a blue tit, and we're measuring the wing, and we'll record it over here. And here we have a robin. This is a European robin, the original robin. Beautiful bird. And this one is a new bird for us, so it's probably flown in from a different area. And this is a lovely green finch, quite a big bird. And this little guy is a Eurasian wren, similar to the wren species you get in the United States. One of our smallest birds. It's lovely.
So there you go. A little bit of an introduction to what I do. Now, those rings, in America, in the US, you call it banding. And those rings are very, very light. The birds do not notice them on their legs. It doesn't weigh them down as they're flying, like, oh no, nothing like that. It's all really safe, and it gives science really valuable data. Hope you enjoyed that little peek. Now I think we're going to go and look at some awesome words. We've got some awesome words for you let's see if you know these words. Now, there are thousands of you watching right now, which is really great. So I can't ask you all. If I was with you, I would ask you and you could put your hands up. So I'm just going to run through these and maybe you can discuss in your classroom. Now, many of you will know the first word, environment. The environment. We hear it a lot. I heard it a lot when I was a child. You hear it even more these days because it's so, so important. Now, the environment can be defined as something where, well, basically it's the world around us, right? It's living and non-living things and how they all interact. The non-living part of the environment is air, water, land, things like that. And there are a lot of things impacting the environment now. You might know some of those. You might even study them at school. I hope you do. Things like climate change, global warming, sea level rise, pollution, all of those things. Now, those are all daunting, kind of maybe scary topics, but have no fear. People like ourselves are very passionate about making a difference and changing those things. Now, the second word is impact. What does impact mean? It has so many meanings, but it basically means a strong effect. So something that has the power to change something else. So impacts can be positive or they can be negative. And we'll hear more about that later. And then the last word there, I know a lot of you know this word, habitat. Now, habitat is a place where things live. This is my habitat. I don't live in this room, but it's part of my house. I could live in here because it's got everything I love. It's got music, it's got wildlife stuff, but I don't. I live outside of this room. But habitats are where we all live. It's where animals need to find shelter, food, water, and all of those wonderful things. Now, my favorite habitat is probably marsh, swamp, that kind of habitat. I love that kind of place because you've got birds, snakes, and other reptiles and things like that. And I also love heathland. That's a really interesting habitat. Do check it out when you have a chance. I want to hear, actually, let's hear from Cassie what her favorite habitat is. Cassie, are you there in Studio One?
I am.
Hey.
Hello, David.
Yeah.
I love the mountains. I went to college in the Appalachian Mountains in North Carolina, and that is one of the coolest habitats. It has beautiful fall, it has a gorgeous winter, and because I lived by the mountains, I always could see bears. I would just be getting done with class, and there would be bears outside my dorm room.
Wow, that is pretty cool. That is pretty cool. I'm hoping to see some bears this summer. Now, Cassie, you can see in the chat we've got a lot of habitats there. We've got mountains from Megan, we've got swamps and marshland from Florida from Lisa earlier, oak savanna from Megan there, jungle from Gina, and so many others. There are so many different habitats out there, aren't there? And we need to protect them. So we've got to do that. Cassie, I think it's time for our first poll question. Shall we do it?
Let's do it.
Let's do it. All right. So everyone, you can see a poll question now on the screen. This is a question we'd like to ask you. In a second, you are going to have the opportunity to select your answer. Now, if you're a big group, maybe you can quickly vote and see which answer is you. But if you're alone, you can choose whichever number you like. So the question is, what kind of impact do you think humans have on nature? Let's start at the bad end. Is it number 1, very bad? Number 2, not great? Number 3, I'm not sure, which is also okay. Number 4, pretty good? Number 5, Very good. Now let's see what the answers are as they come in. They're coming in now. You can see a live feed. Isn't this exciting? I feel like I'm on a live news show and we're getting some votes in. We got a lot. It's looking pretty heavy on the negative end of the scale. So we've got a lot of people saying not great. By the way, there's no right or wrong answer here. This is just your reflection, so have no fear. We've got a lot of people. So 44, around 45% of you are suggesting it's not great, and 15 are presenting it's very bad. So look at that. Those are the end results there. 43% on not great. A few of you, 23%, 12% on the good end. Great. We love positivity. So that's also cool. But we do have quite a heavy weight at the end. So let's explore that today. Let's explore it. I think we have one more question for you. Another poll question here. Do you think you can help nature in the future? So this is a question for you. Think about your agency. Can you actually make a difference? So we've got these different answers. Definitely not. I definitely don't think I can. Not really. Not sure. Yes, or yes, for sure I can help. Let's have a look. Answer away. Let's see the answers as they come in. Ooh, look at this. Very positive. Very positive. Don't let your answers be influenced by what you see on the screen, of course. If you feel definitely not, you can also answer that. But I am liking this. I am loving this. I'm sure everyone else on this call is too. 76% down to 74. That's cool. You guys are really positive. You know you can make a difference, and that fills us with hope and joy, and I love that. 73% of you said yes for sure. 23% said yes. How awesome is that? Well done, everyone. Well done. Well, keep that positivity and hold it throughout this session and beyond, and the world will be a wonderful place. Now, we have a couple more awesome words for you before we move on. Now, the first word is extinction. I'm sure many of you, if not all of you, will know what this word means. This basically means the process where a species no longer exists in the wild. So the number of species living in the natural environment becomes zero. Now, you might know some animals that have already gone extinct. Very sad stories. Now, post them away in the chat if you know any animals that have already gone extinct. Of course, the dinosaurs were the original poster animals, if there is such a thing, of extinction. But we have more recent extinctions too. We have actually 1 million species on planet Earth are currently facing extinction. So we all need to pull our heads together and make that change. Good. Now, the next word is endangered. What does that mean? Well, this describes animals and living things that are close to going extinct. They're very close, with a little bit of not a little bit, a lot of protection and a lot of hard work from conservationists and people like you and me that really care about the environment. We can stop them going extinct. Now, they need to mainly make sure that their habitats are kept safe. A lot of the reason animals go extinct are because their habitats, their very unique habitats, go before them. So if their habitat disappears, they also disappear, and they're not able to recover. So we're making differences, and there's some great stories like tigers. Tigers are being better protected. We're working a lot on vultures around the world to make sure they're better protected. There's a lot of good things happening. Now, the last word, adaptation. Wow, what is that? Adaptation? Well, this is where a living thing has adapted a special feature to survive. Like an owl has very large eyes, so it can see at night, can see in the dark. Now, can you, any of you out there, think of any other adaptations? Have a little discussion in your groups. A couple more examples. Ducks have webbed feet for swimming. The web between their feet means they can move the water and move forward, propel themselves better. Woodpeckers, one of my favorites. They have, of course, very strong beaks for banging the wood, and they have very, very strong neck muscles from all that head banging that they do. And then eagles, of course, birds of prey, other birds of prey have very sharp talons to catch that prey that they're going to eat. Very good. Well, those are our last awesome words. I think we're going to move into today's topic. So let's start talking about this. Now, you've already heard a bit about birds. We're meeting today's dinosaurs. Surprise, surprise, they are birds. You'll see a very cool video in a second describing what I mean by that. But this topic today is very, very cool. Now, let's warm up our brains. In your class, wherever you're sitting, think about or talk about what is one thing you know about birds. You can share it in the chat or just share it amongst you in the class. What's one cool thing you know about birds? Now, I have a few facts here. I wonder if Cassie has a few facts as well. Let's bring Cassie back. There she is. Hi, Cassie.
Hi.
How you doing? How you doing?
I'm
So,
good.
what's one thing you know about birds, Cassie?
Yeah, so when I was a child, I lived in Iowa, right on the Mississippi River. And I noticed and learned there was one time every year where bald eagles were migrating across the Mississippi and there was just a certain time of year where they would hang out there before moving on. So it was real. That's how I learned about how birds travel from one end of the country to the other during different seasons.
Wow, that's so cool. And someone actually just mentioned migration in the chat. There's so many things coming through. They're related to dinosaurs. They don't have teeth. They use their wings. They migrate south and then migrate north later. Birds are avians. Birds eat fish. They lay. Oh my goodness. You guys are smart. Has anyone? I bet loads of people have said that to you. I'm not going to ask. Now, Cassie, I have a few facts. So one of the interesting ones was. These are pretty specific facts, but let's give it a go. You know the Arctic tern, there's a bird called the Arctic tern, and it flies 22,000 miles a year, round trip from one end of the planet to the other and back. How crazy is that?
So many.
So many miles for a small bird. It's pretty cool. And one more really a little bit disgusting fact. I like this. The bearded vulture has the strongest known acid in nature in its stomach. And do you know why it has that, Cassie?
I don't. I'm excited to find out, though.
I was hoping you would, because I don't. No, I'm kidding. I will tell you. It has the strongest acid because it eats bones. It swallows bones whole, and the bones go into their stomach and dissolve. How amazing is that?
That is really cool.
Very cool. Very cool. A little bit disgusting too, which I know you kids like. Very good. Right. We have a little bit of a wiggle break here. I love that phrase, by the way, Cassie. Thanks so much for that wiggle break. I'm going to ask you to fly with me to London, because guess what? We're all virtually going to the London Natural History Museum now. So I want you to get your wings. If you're in a classroom, get your wings and do some different beats. So maybe flap like a large eagle. You can flap like that. Very good. I can't see you, but I'm going to pretend that you're doing it. And then maybe glide like an albatross. That's it. That's it. Glide like an albatross. Very good, very good. Especially you. Yeah, you. Very good flying. And the last one, let's do a really quick wing beat of a hummingbird, which flap ridiculous amounts during 1 second. That's very good. And now I think we're landing at the Natural History Museum, and it's time to watch a video. Here we go.
Welcome to the Natural History Museum in London.
The perfect place to learn about the natural world and how humans can help it.
Here at the museum, we have millions of specimens. and hundreds of scientists.
But one thing we are particularly famous for is dinosaurs.
Dinosaurs lived millions of years ago. They laid eggs, had scales, and some even had feathers.
These ancient dinosaurs are now extinct.
Scientists think this was caused by an asteroid that hit the Earth. But some of them survived. Can you think of any animals alive today that lay eggs, have scaly feet, and are covered in feathers? Birds. Birds are dinosaurs. Studying fossils has taught us that these ancient dinosaurs are the ancestors of birds, who are kind of like their great-great-great-great-great-great-great-great-grandchildren. Birds are dinosaurs. But unfortunately, many birds are endangered. And many birds have already become extinct, just like their prehistoric cousins. And this time, it's human impact, not an asteroid, that's affecting them.
So even though it's too late to save these ancient dinosaurs,
we do have the chance to save today's dinosaurs, birds. Everything we humans do has an effect or impact on the natural world. An impact can be negative, bad for nature, or positive, good for nature. Too often, our human impact is negative. We build things on land, destroying habitats. We pollute water environments, making them unsafe. We create noise and light in the air, confusing and scaring living things. But sometimes our human impact can be positive. By using our creative human brains, we can imagine and build solutions. From scientists working hard to tackle big issues, to communities protecting their local environments, to families making simple choices. Many humans are looking for ways to make our impact more positive.
together we can build the change.
Amazing. Isn't that great? And oh, look, there she is. We have the wonderful Zoe Hulls on with us. Hello, Zoe. How are you?
Hi, David. I'm all right. Thank you. How are you?
I'm very good. Now, thank you for asking. Now, we have known each other for many years, so it's really lovely having you here on this broadcast, and thank you for coming along. What do you think of it so far?
It's great. I love seeing that video. You know, it's so cool seeing the museum all like that on screen. It's brilliant.
It is. And I forgot to mention, you actually work at the London Natural History Museum. Is this true?
I do, yeah. I do.
Wow.
I work at the museum. I look after our learning programs. So we have lots and lots of school children who come and visit us every day, and they come and take part in all sorts of brilliant activities that our teams run at the museum.
I love it. And it's one of my, it's one of my favorite places in London. And if any of you ever get over to London, make sure you go and say hi to Zoe. Now, Zoe, your favorite food, I have to point out, is spaghetti, because it's on the screen.
It is, yeah. It is, yes. My favorite food is spaghetti.
Good choice. Good choice. I wonder if I'm trying to link it to birds. I wonder if birds like spaghetti. And you also love going to the seaside with your kids.
I do, yes. I have two children. They are 7 and 4 years old. If you hear them in the background, it's tea time here in London. It's 6:30 in the evening, so they're getting to that slightly grumpy phase. But I love taking them to the seaside and getting them out and about and exploring the parks local to us in London as well.
Wonderful. Now, London is a very green city, which we're very lucky to have. Now, if you would like to ask Zoe any questions about the London Natural History Museum or the birds there, do put them in the chat. I have a couple questions for you to kick things off, Zoe. First one is, what is your favourite object in the museum?
Oh, that's so hard because there are 80 million different objects in the museum, so that's a lot to count. But I think my favourite one is a big rock. Actually, it's not a bird, it's a big rock. It's called a gogot, which is a funny word in itself, and it's this big curvy rock that I walk past every day when I go into my office, and I just love it. I want to touch it, but it's really disappointing that it's in a big cabinet. One day I'm going to go and stroke it, I think,
when security's asleep, I'm sure. Now,
Absolutely.
There's another question coming in from Vanessa Leung. What is your favorite type of animal?
My favourite type of animal. Do you know what? I really love birds as well. So this course is so much fun because it's talking about birds. There's the little birds that live in Britain called sparrows. I love listening to them because they live in big colonies all together, like a little village of birds. And you walk past them and you hear them tweeting and chattering to each other. And if you get too close, they stop silent, like they're worried you can hear what they're saying. And I always like to wonder what they're actually talking about, you know. They're sort of saying, oh, her shoes look a bit rubbish today. She didn't brush her hair. You know, what are they saying?
Exactly. Talking about the weather like every other British person.
Yeah.
Now, there's another question, a very specific one. Do you know if there's a dinosaur in the museum called a Gigasaurus? That's from Cheryl Hannah.
I don't remember that one, no. Don't think
we can
so.
Check out.
But we will check.
That. Yeah. And do you have a complete dinosaur at the museum?
We have a Stegosaurus that I think is 95% complete, which is about as complete as you get with dinosaur skeletons because they are so difficult to get out of the ground. That one I think did come from America.
Oh wow, probably Utah or somewhere like that. I remember visiting some sites there. How many birds are extinct? I'm not sure on that. We'll have to check out that for you. What kind of education programs are offered at the museum? That's a nice, very mature
Amazing.
Yeah.
We do loads of education programs at the museum. One of our most popular ones is about volcanoes and earthquakes. So we do a big show for visiting students about volcanoes and earthquakes, which they really enjoy. We have a pretend volcano that goes bang in it, which is fun. We do programs about extinction, stuff about what lives in the sea. Oh, definitely about Mary Anning. I've just seen that one come up. Yeah. Oh, loads about Mary Anning. We love Mary Anning.
We love Mary Anning. She's great. She's always at the museum, in spirit. So, when did you start working at the museum, and how did you get into it?
I've been working at the museum for 10 years, and I started working in our learning team 10 years ago. Before that, I worked for an organisation called the National Trust, which looks after lots of outdoor spaces. So I got into the museum by actually working outdoors and doing education stuff out in green spaces, and lots of activities in the park.
Amazing. Very cool. Now, we've got time for one more question. There's so many questions there, and I'm sorry we can't answer them all, but we'll get back to you when we can. And thank you so much for sending these questions in. But I think one that's come up a lot is, what is your favourite dinosaur? What's your favourite?
That's a really, really hard question. And I'm not a dinosaur expert, but I think some of the British dinosaurs are really, really cool. We have a Baryonyx, which is a British dinosaur. So they didn't just come from America. A lot of the big dinosaurs did come from the US, and a lot of our specimens did, but we did have dinosaurs in the UK as well.
That's so cool. Zoe, it has been an absolute pleasure. There's a lovely image there of the museum, and Hope the whale, which hangs in the entrance hall as you go in. It's impressive.
That's right.
Thank you so much, Zoe, for joining us today and for everything.
Thank you so much for having me.
It's been awesome. I can't wait to hang out again soon. Everyone say goodbye to Zoe. We'll speak to you again soon. Thanks, Zoe.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye. Oh, I could talk to Zoe all day. Hi, Cassie. I know, it's so good. Having these guests is great, but then you just want to talk more. Time is short. So we have a little bit of a quiz now, don't we? Just a little bit of a warm-up for people to think about. I love that there is an S. on the albatross. It's gone to the next line. Good. There we are.
Okay.
I love that. Yay! Amazing. We found the S, everyone. An S went missing, and so it was missing an S, and now it's back. So, Cassie, I can see 3 different birds here.
Mhm.
Now, there's something, what do you see, first of all, that's the same?
Yeah, so I love talking about compare and contrast, what's the same and what's different. And so in the chat, can you guys share with us what you see? What are the same about these birds and what's different? We're going to warm up our brains as we get ready to hear from a bird expert and meet our special bird guest. So let's see, David, I see that they all have wings. So does Patricia Miller in the chat. What do you see?
Perfect. Yeah, all wings, beaks and wings as well. They all have necks, different length necks, but they all have necks. Tails, different length tails. Not all of them fly, I think. No, you're right. One of these.
Yeah, so we've got some same. What about different? We've done some compare. What's our contrast? What's different about these 3 birds?
It's different. Different habitats, yeah. Different colors.
Oh, I didn't even think of the different habitats. That's so smart.
Very cool. Very cool. Different habitats, different varieties.
I took my mom, shout out to Miss Dunn, to a bird farm kind of thing a couple years ago, and the emu, whenever it wanted food, would run to our car and just kind of stick its long neck inside the car window, and I don't think the other 2 can do that.
No. Now swans, of course, beautiful birds. I got to ring one recently. I got to band one recently, and Cassie, I had to sit on top of it while I did that, which was interesting. I never thought I'd be sitting on top of a swan one day, but it was a kind of dream come true in a weird way. Albatross have these lovely, long, thin wings that enables them to glide for hours above the ocean waves. Amazing flyers, long distance. And of course, emus, not such good flyers. Not flyers at all.
They can run.
They're amazing runners. They're the only bird with cuffs like us on our legs. They're the only bird with those, and that's what enables them to run so much. Different speed. Guys, amazing, Cassie, right? All these answers. Amazing.
Yeah, I wish we could read them all, but I know I'm really excited to meet our next guest. David, what about you?
Oh, man. Yeah. I mean, both of our guests say awesome, and we get the great pleasure of introducing Colleen Hartman, who works at a very special place called the Carolina Raptor Center, and you'll hear more about this in a second. But I think we'll head over to Colleen now and say a big hello. So, Colleen, are you there in studio? Let's call it Studio 3. Are you there? There you are.
Hi. Thank you, David, for the intro. Thank you, Cassie.
No worries. Over to you. Thank you for being here. Firstly, it's a really big pleasure. Now, I can't help but comment on your side too. Your hair has been every color of the rainbow.
It has. Yep. I love self-expression. I love being different. I actually have a little bit of purple in my hair right now. You probably can't see it, but yeah, I love color.
Good stuff. Almost like birds, right? Birds are very good at self-expression. All the beautiful colors.
They are. Absolutely.
Right. You've got some amazing slides to walk through. So I'm going to hand over to you, Colleen, to talk about what you're doing. All right.
Great.
See you in a second.
Okay, thank you. Thank you so much. I'm so excited to be here. My name is Colleen Hartman. I am the curator of birds at Carolina Raptor Center. It's a big fancy title, meaning that I help care for a lot of really special birds at our facility. So Carolina Raptor Center, we are located in Huntersville, North Carolina, which is in the United States, right outside of Charlotte. So if you know of that location, we are about 30 minutes outside of that city. And our mission statement is to ignite imaginations and inspire engagement in the natural world through the exploration and rehabilitation of birds of prey. So we care for over 70 birds that call Carolina Raptor Center their home, and they're ambassadors for their species. So we have many birds that come out to do really great free flight experiences and bird shows, just so people can learn more about how cool raptors and birds of prey are. We have a special team of birds, like one you will meet today, who come out for education programs and visit summer camps and all kinds of stuff, just to teach people about how neat they are. We also have a raptor hospital where we take in injured or sick raptors with the hopes of releasing them back into the wild. So raptors are birds of prey. They hunt for their food, so they're a type of predator, and they're really important. They hunt using, a lot of them hunt using their feet, also known as talons, to grab up prey, and they can eat things like mice, squirrels, rabbits, fish, you name it. They are big meat eaters. So some of those raptors are owls, hawks, eagles, vultures, and even a really cool bird called a seriama. And we have birds that are technically not raptors, like kookaburras and hornbills, that we love to just show how cool birds are in different habitats. So raptors are a keystone species, and that means that they're super important. Keystone species are important for the balance and the diversity of habitats. So they keep habitats healthy by making sure that other populations of animals and other resources stay in check and stay balanced, and make sure those resources don't get too low or overconsumed. And I don't know about you, but I think birds are super cool. But unfortunately, sometimes humans have a negative impact. We see about 800 to 1,000 raptors a year through our raptor hospital, and 90% of those birds come in with injuries relating to the human impact. So most of those birds are hit by cars or found along roadsides. So what a lot of people don't know is that when you toss a banana peel or an apple core or a piece of gum out the window, any kind of litter like that will attract rodents like mice and will attract squirrels. And that is one of our raptors' favorite things to eat, are those mice and those squirrels. And so that will attract these birds down to the roadsides to hunt. And unfortunately, they can get hurt by cars in the process. But there's something really simple that you can do to help out raptors in your hometown. You can tell your family and friends about this problem and ask them to keep their gum and their apple core and their trash in the car until you get home and you can dispose of it properly. And that helps so many of our feathered friends live safely among us by doing that. My next slides are just a couple of pictures from our hospital where we have some intake with these birds, and we're doing a full body check over them to make sure they're healthy, make sure they're good for release. And then our end goal is, of course, release, which I have in this last slide. And we release a lot of birds back into the wild, which is really cool. So you guys can help so much by doing simple things like making sure not to litter, and coming to visit organizations like ourselves. So zoos, aviaries, rescue facilities, they're all really great places to visit and learn about. And so I have a special friend to bring out if we are ready for that, who I think you guys will really like. So if you give me 1 second, I'll bring him out for you. All right, let's make sure I can get him on screen. So this is Monty. He is a Lanner Falcon. He is one of our ambassadors here at Carolina Raptor Center. And he is a really great teacher. So he travels out to schools, those summer camps that I was talking about, just to show people how cool falcons are and how raptors are. So I'm happy to take any questions about him and talk to you guys a little bit about falcons if you don't have any other questions.
Awesome. Wow. Okay. This is a dream come true. I love Lanner Falcons. Thank you, Colleen. That's so cool. Hi, Monty. A lot of people are saying hi to Monty on the chat as well, Colleen.
I'm sure he's reading it.
he's often online chatting away with people. Right, we've got some questions for you. What does he hunt? What does he eat? Yeah.
His favorite thing to eat is chicken. So I'm sure a lot of us love to eat chicken. I know I do, but he prefers his uncooked. So that is one of his favorite meals. But they eat a lot of birds in the wild. They won't eat just birds. They'll eat mice and things like that too, but they love birds.
Fantastic. And where in the world do they live, Lanner falcons?
So they live in Europe, in the Middle East, and they migrate down into Africa. So in the United States, we have peregrine falcons that we see a lot of the time that migrate up through North America into South America. But these guys are a bit like their European cousin.
They're awesome. They're awesome. And how long can he live in the wild? How old is he as well?
That's a great question. So we think that he could live to be about 15 years old in the wild. He's actually 19 though. So under human care and at a facility like ourselves, spreading his wings, they can typically live much longer because they have a full healthcare plan with us. So anytime if he was ever feeling sick, he could come into our hospital and we could treat him and make sure he's cared for.
Amazing. Amazing. This is a good question from Gina. Why are his eyes so big?
Why are they so big? That is like their superpower. So falcons have really great vision. When they're hunting their prey, they're flying up really high in the air and they need really great eyesight to find things to eat. So that's how he finds his food. What you'll notice too is he has these little black marks under his eye. Those are called malar marks, if you can see them. And those protect his eyes. So out in the wild, it would absorb the sunlight. So a bit like sunglasses for us.
I love that. And a lot of falcons have that actually, don't they? Like the peregrine.
Yeah, they do.
So cool. Now, there's some others. Will Monty go free in the future? That's an interesting question.
That's a good question. No, he is with us for his entire life. He, I think, has a pretty happy and content life with us. So he gets all the food he could possibly need. He gets a lot of enrichment or things to do throughout the day to keep him occupied. We watch through his behavior to make sure he is content or happy. And that behavior he just did, where he puffed up his feathers, was something called a rouse. And we think that's a sign that indicates that he's comfortable with us.
Wow. And this is a little tricky question, but does Monty, maybe cover Monty's ears, does Monty have any predators in the wild, something that would eat him?
Other raptors definitely could. If there was a weak raptor, another raptor could come in and try to take them out for sure. But I would say humans are the biggest predator for these guys because of our effect sometimes on wildlife.
It's a shame, isn't it? But we can change that, can't we, with cool ideas. There was one question, I don't know if you know the answer. How fast can they fly? Do you have that fact?
I actually do know this answer. So they can fly about 90 miles an hour straight on. It's pretty fast.
That is fast. That is fast. Now, do they do a dive like peregrines, do you know?
They don't. Peregrines will do something called a dive or a stoop, where they'll go up very high in the air and they'll come down and ride that current of air, a bit like a bullet. And they can go super fast, over like 200 miles an hour. These guys fly a little bit wider ranged and don't necessarily come down on their prey like that. But 90, I think, is still pretty fast.
I wouldn't argue with that. That's pretty amazing. Final question. How does Monty hear? That's a good question.
How does he hear? That's a good question. So for us, we can hide our ears under our hair, or a lot of people might have longer hairstyles. His ears are covered the same way, but with his feathers. So he actually has two little holes in the side of his head that he hears from.
Okay, that's the same for all birds, and it depends on the species, doesn't it, where the ears are positioned? Is that right?
Yeah, absolutely. Our owls will have ears that are up and forward, and then another one down and back, so they can hear all around them. These guys are a little bit more symmetrical, or they're on either side of their head evenly.
Amazing. Wow, Colleen, I wish, honestly, genuinely, I wish we could talk all day about birds, but time is pressing on. We're going to have to move on to our next segment. thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having Monty and I. We're really excited to be here.
We're so excited to have you. Thank you so much, Colleen. We will get any other questions you have for Colleen over to her very soon. But we are running out of time, so we need to move on. The big challenge is coming. I think it's time. We're going to start getting creative now. We're going to have a little bit of time where Cassie and I are going to build with you. But I hope you've got some materials handy, because we've got a little challenge for you. You don't have to finish it during this call. You can continue afterwards. But the video you're about to see will present you with the challenge. Here we go.
Now let's talk about our human impact on migratory birds.
Many different species of birds migrate or travel from one area to another. They do this for many reasons. To go somewhere warmer during cold months, or somewhere with more daylight hours for finding food. Some birds use the stars and moon to help navigate and work out which way to go. Bird migrations can be very long journeys, so they need to stop along the way. For example, Arctic terns have the longest migration in the world. They raise their chicks in the Arctic before setting out on a journey to the other side of the world. The trip can last months, with the terns stopping off in North and South America, Europe, Asia, and Africa before arriving in Antarctica. But as we've learned, everything we humans do impacts the natural world. Sometimes this impact is positive, and sometimes this impact is negative. And this includes our impact on migratory birds looking for somewhere safe to stop along their journey. We build things on land, destroying habitats. We pollute water environments, making them unsafe. We create noise and light in the air, confusing and scaring living things. But people all around the world are also using simple ideas to help nature. Together we can make our impact positive. But what if migratory birds need to make a stop near where you live? Your challenge is to redesign a neighborhood to make it safe and welcoming for migratory birds. They will need somewhere safe to rest and find food, clean water, and to be protected from noise and light pollution. But don't forget, humans need to live here too. Can you design a neighborhood that humans and birds can share? We can't wait to see what you come up with.
Together, we can build the change.
That is the challenge. Can you create a safe space for birds, especially migratory birds that are traveling through, where they can stop and be safe and interact with humans and all of that? I love that challenge. Now, the challenge mentioned, Rosie, our good friend on the video, she mentioned 3 things. 1, think about the habitat and what the habitat can provide those birds. Is there water? Is there shelter? Think about water itself. Is the water clean? Is there any pollution around? Maybe we can make a place that's pollution free or something like that. And then lastly, think about the noise and the light, because noise and light can really disrupt birds. They can disrupt their singing, how they communicate, and how they sleep and rest. Okay, so there's a few things in there. Don't worry if you didn't catch all that, but I know you'll have amazing ideas. I think, Cassie, you're going to come back on and we're going to do some building now, aren't we, for a bit of time. So everyone, Cassie, do you want to give a little mention of what they should do now? Or yeah, is that good?
Absolutely. So we're going to take the next 10 minutes to craft, build, think about the way we can create a welcoming neighborhood for birds. I am going to be using random craft supplies I have left over from my old classroom. David, are you going to be using Legos?
Oh, yeah, I've got some Lego bricks here. I'm going to build something. Yeah, something quick. Let's see.
So while David and I build, and while you are working in your classrooms with your teachers, with each other, if you have other questions that David and I can try to answer, about birds, about human impact, or anything else you're curious about, I'm sure David and I would be happy to continue chatting with you while we build. Does that sound good?
That sounds great. That sounds
fantastic.
Great. Love it.
According to my time, it is 1:54 Eastern. So we will stop building at 2:05 Eastern. So if you're in like the Midwest, that's going to be, I'm not going to do that math. We have 10 minutes.
Love it. Love it. Good stuff. Now I'm going to start building here. I've got some nice, you can see my bricks there. That might be some water. I might do some water, Cassie.
Oh,
some
that's
water
cool.
Because they need some water. Very important. I'm putting some, also got some little green bits there. I might put those on your habitat.
Yeah,
what have you got? Have you got anything that's jumping out?
I'm thinking about, I live in a really big apartment building. It
Ooh,
has 20 floors. And I used to live in North Carolina in a house, so I got to see birds all of the time. And the comment on light pollution had me thinking about how my apartment building could have more space for birds, but all of the lights probably make it a little unsafe. So I'm thinking about how apartments could have built into the building places for birds to nest that are safe.
That's awesome. That is awesome.
Wow. Stephanie Tanner has a great question. There will be a video available after this event, so just follow the registration link that you used to get on here today, and that's going to bring you to the recorded event.
Very cool.
And if you need to duck out early, we totally understand. School days are packed. You can do this throughout the rest of the week as a center. You could build this as a lesson later. But whatever you choose to do, we're excited to see. And we'll tell you a little bit later how you can share what you're building with us.
Amazing. We've got another question. How long will birds stay at each habitat along the way? Well, that's up to you, really. Usually, when birds are migrating, they'll need to stop, rest, and fatten up. So they do need to eat, because all that flying makes them very thin. They lose a lot of weight when they're flying. So they need to stock up on food, insects, whatever they're eating at that time of year. Small birds will eat insects, fatten up, and then they'll continue their journey. So they can stay in a place for anything up to a week on migration. And we do a lot of research on that, actually. And we see birds come in with no fat on their bodies. We always check. And then we catch them again just before they're about to fly, and they've got fat on their bodies. So it's really interesting. They fatten up very quick. How much should a bird weigh? Wow, that's a good question, isn't it, Cassie? Birds can weigh anything from, well, we have one in the UK, which is similar to your kinglet in the US. And they weigh around 6 grams, which is a little more than a sheet of A4 paper, which is, very, very small, very small. And they weigh anything up to crazy, crazy kilograms. So I put a tree into mine. I've got a tree for, you can see here, Cassie, little tree.
Cool.
I think trees are good for them to stop in, and a lot of warbler species like to jump around the top. And I've also put in this. Now this is a platform for people to go up and sit and enjoy the birds at kind of canopy level, so they can sit and watch the birds across the park and interact.
Oh, that's really neat, because I love bird watching, but my eyes are really sensitive, so looking up into the sky is hard for me because sometimes it's so bright. So I love that idea of something built in where you can still watch the birds, but maybe not stare into the sun.
It is. I actually have some here. Look, Cassie, I can see you very close. Very close.
Oh,
I've got some binoculars. These are very, very important tool for me as a birder.
Mm-hmm.
We've got a comment here. Carol was in Japan in 2018. Oh, cool. I lived in Japan for 12 years. Interesting. So shocked to see just a few birds and no butterflies. Yes. Now, I have to agree with you. Japan, Tokyo has a few very big green spaces, which I know very well because I used to go birding around them, but they have a lot of concrete and a lot of buildings. It's not a very green city, and I think they want to change that. So there are very few species of bird within the city. However, if you go to the right places, there's a place called Meiji Jingu. Meiji Jingu is a park, and it's full of birds on migration time. So you do get a lot of birds dropping in, and the winter is very good. It gets very hot in the summer, so it's very difficult to find birds. But great, thanks for asking, Carol. A nice Japan connection there. Do birds just stop to get some water? Yeah. So some will stop along the way just to drink, have a drink. That happens a lot. But others will stay overnight. They usually find, a safe place to roost, and they'll sit there until the next day, somewhere where they won't be predated. Wow, Nadia gets 4,000 sandhill cranes migrating through your wildlife refuge each year. That is stunning. I love that species.
That is really cool.
Isn't that cool? So sandhill cranes wouldn't come and land in your garden, for example, on migration, so you wouldn't get those. But maybe you could think about a habitat that they would like near you. So maybe some kind of marsh or field kind of areas that they enjoy, grassland for migration. Very
yeah,
cool.
where I lived in North Carolina, we had this canal trail where a lot of old canals were. And whenever I would take a walk there, I would hear more than see, but I would hear lots and lots of birds, which was very cool.
I love that. I've just built this. This is, now, never underestimate the power of a bird box, a bird house. These are so special. I'm going to put this in because they need more homes. So putting up bird boxes really helps species. So
I think that's kind of what I'm working on. I think we have the same thought.
Nice. Very nice.
David, I am wondering this too. We have a question from Kelly Dunn and the Iowa Hawkeyes. We sometimes see birds flying in shapes or like bird balls. How do they do that?
That's an amazing question. Now, one of the best species that do that are starlings. Starlings will gather, and if you've ever seen it, you'll never forget. They gather and they do what is called a murmuration. A murmuration. They get all together and fly into all these different shapes. It's stunning. It is absolutely stunning. And you can see it. This is the right time of year to see that. So if you have them near you, ask your parents or caregivers to check online. Someone will have written about it and somewhere you can see it. Anyway, how do they do it? Well, scientists are really trying to work it out. But it's largely around group thinking. So a couple birds will start and the other birds will simply follow. And it's just a constant case of adapting, flying around, changing directions. It has a purpose, they believe, as well. One of the purposes is to deter predators, to confuse predators, and the other is simply to flock together before dropping down into a roost for the night. So in the winter, birds get together to roost because it's not breeding time. They're not having chicks. They can all get together, and then when spring comes, they spread out and they go and have their families. So it's pretty interesting. What impact do humans have on migratory birds? Good question. Okay, so I'll give you a couple before we end. We've got one more minute. Now, humans are wrecking habitat. There's a lot of habitat disappearing, and those migratory birds need that habitat to stop and refuel to continue their journeys. There is also the factor of climate change. Now, the Earth is getting hotter, and that means that birds are migrating at different times. They're getting confused. Some birds are not migrating at all now that used to migrate. For example, in the UK, we have a couple birds that simply stay in the UK all year round now. Birds that used to fly to Africa and back. So things are changing. So we are having an impact on them. Paige has a very quick question. What do most birds eat? I would have to say the most common food is insects. They love insects. So any invertebrates. But if you get bigger birds of prey, it's mice, stuff like that, rabbits even. Very cool. So Cassie, I realised I could talk for hours, and I'll stop there. I've been talking too much, but I came up. That's what I've got so far. I'm going to continue building on this. What did you get to?
I have been working on thinking about the outside of my apartment building and thinking about how there are just walls with no windows, that there could be space on the outside. So I've thought about, this is the wall of my apartment building, clearly. I pretend that it's all glitter. And I've been thinking about ways we could build a place for birds to land and nest. And I even made this leaf into a bird with its little googly eyes. Well, its feet falls off sometimes. We let that happen. It's okay. And where they could land and nest. Now, David, I know this wasn't enough time to build, and we know that. But we have a way for you educators to share what you've built when you're done. So you don't have to be done right now. If you are amazing, here is a way, and listen up, kiddos, so you can remind your teachers. You know how busy they are, and sometimes we just forget, so remind them. You can scan this QR code with your phone to share what you've built with us here at First Book and Lego. So what you do, you have your phone, you take a picture of that QR code, and it will take you to a site where you can share the pictures of what you and your class has built. Please, please, please share them. We love seeing what kiddos build. We love seeing your students' awesome ideas.